We're just 1 year away from one of the most interesting presidential elections in recent memory, and only weeks away from the Iowa caucuses. Melissa Cole sat down earlier with NYU College Republican President Sarah Chambers and NYU College Democrats President Cruzcosa to find out their take on the hot issues shaping the political atmosphere right now.
Okay, thank you both for joining us. We're really excited to have you here. So let's go ahead and get started. There was a new ABC poll out this past weekend that said that Americans are hungry for change. Democrats and Republicans alike. What kind of changes do you think Americans are hungry for? Do you want to start? Chris?
Well, I would say they're just generally for a change of party and a change of direction in this country. I mean, if you look at the tone of each Republican campaign versus each Democratic campaign, each Republican campaign is focused on completely distancing themselves from the current policy, the current administration. So I mean, they all know that they've set a policy in place for the past 6 years, and it's failed. And the whole point of their campaign now is just saying, well, we want to do things differently, same party, but we don't really like what's going on so far.
Okay, Sarah?
I think people, after 8 years of the same person in office, are always kind of ready for change, no matter really who that person is. I think also that in a lot of the debates, people, they try to make themselves different. They try and show where they're different from Bush on certain issues, but at the same time, I don't think they've tried to completely distance themselves from the president. They're just trying to make their own way. They're trying to become their own candidate. That's why you see a lot less of the Reagan references. But I mean, obviously they're looking for change, but I think that a lot of the Republican candidates out there can represent that change just as much.
Okay, so the Iraq War, has been a major polarizing issue for both sides. Do you think that this issue will be sort of like the defining factor for any of the candidates seeking the nomination in their respective party? Sarah?
I think within the party, Iraq may not have as much of an effect as far as being the defining issue. I don't really think among the front runners in the Republicans, Iraq is going to be a definite issue. A lot of the candidates, none of them have exactly alike positions, but a lot of them are similar. So it's always important. It's always something people are going to take into consideration when nominating, their candidate or when electing in the general election. But I don't think within the primary it's going to be a definite factor.
And Chris, between Obama and Clinton and Edwards, is this big still, Iraq?
Well, I mean, it's definitely an issue that can get any Democratic crowd riled up and excited about. So of course, it's the issue that each candidate uses to distance themselves. I mean, as a party, as separate from the right wing side of our country, and it's important in our own base, and it's important, I think, in the mainstream country. I mean, if Republicans don't really kind of focus on it because it's a policy that they don't all agree on, whereas we all have one voice saying it's time to get out.
Okay, so now let's talk a little bit more about the candidates and the sort of interesting and different campaigns that they've been running. Starting with Obama, he's made some media appearances on SNL this past weekend, Ellen, the Tyra Banks show, and some people have been saying that these appearances have sort of been out of the norm for a presidential candidate. How do you feel about that, Chris?
I mean, it's a whole new world right now. You can only go on certain political shows so many times before it's kind of old hat, and especially since the election cycle has been just completely elongated to almost years at this point, that you have to keep finding new mediums that perhaps aren't as traditional. But I mean, it's nothing that's hadn't been done before when the first campaigns went on Letterman or Leno or wherever. It's just a whole new way of reaching the audience, which is really just the only goal.
Okay, and Sarah, do you see it the same way?
I think Obama has definitely tried to reach people through different mediums. I don't watch SNL that often, but I'm not sure if any other candidates make regular appearances on SNL. I think it's part of his whole strategy to really reach out to the younger demographic and try and get the youth vote out traditionally, unfortunately, the youth vote has never turned out as much as people have hoped for. So it'll be interesting to see if this, new strategy is actually successful in turning out the vote. But I think it is different, and I think it all just shows his effort. I mean, his text messaging and the Facebook and all those types of reaching out to the younger people. I think it's all part of that strategy, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Okay. Well, let's move on quickly and talk a little bit about Giuliani, who this week just enlisted the support of televangelist Pat Robertson. Do you think that this is going to change the minds of some of those conservative Christian groups out there who vowed that they wouldn't support Giuliani if he got the presidential nomination? And conversely, will he lose moderate support for this? Sarah?
I don't think he's going to really lose any moderate support from this. I think even the moderates that are very pro-Giuliani and are supporting Rudy might actually be happy about it because they think that that'll turn in more of those, social right voters. So I think that the moderates might actually be happy about it. I certainly don't think he's going to lose any moderate voters. And it's interesting. I don't think the people that have vowed that they'll never ever vote for a pro-choice candidate, I don't think it's going to change their minds. But maybe the people that are pro-life and they're unsure of whether or not they want to support Giuliani because, he's so different from them on so many of the social issues, maybe they'll give him a second look, maybe they'll think about it more. But I don't think anybody that's already made up their mind they're not voting for him, I don't really think it's going to change that.
Okay, quick, all we have time. Who's going to win? Presidential election 2008. 1 second. Chris.
Hillary.
Mitt Romney.
Okay. Thank you both for joining us. Hope to see you here again.